Hello, welcome to the Do-It-Yourself Gourmet Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about mise en place, which, from what I've learned about French, is simply put in place. And what that means in the culinary world is getting everything ready before you have to do it, so that you're not grabbing anything at the last minute or rushing about. Because when you're at the station, when you're in the culinary laboratory, you really don't want to have to go too far off your mark so that you can be concentrated and focused on what you're doing there. It would be, there are times when, things are cooking along, and if you have to go and look for something for too much of a time, then it's going to cut into something and maybe it burns and maybe you miss a temperature, especially if you're working with pastry or if you're working with sugar forming and candy. That kind of stuff really has to adhere to mise en place. And what that there is kind of an analogy to say that the more you have things prepared, the higher and more technical things that you can get done. And that's really important, both in the kitchen and I've learned in business as well as in life. If you can get things prepared ahead of time, and if you do get things prepared ahead of time, it really helps to take it one step further when it's time to go that extra mile and say, okay, am I going to do something good or am I going to do something great? And so mise en place, things like, okay, I'm going to cook eggs today. What do I have to do? Okay, I'm going to get the egg out. I'm not going to turn the pan on until I have things ready. Or if I am going to turn the pan on, it's going to be super low and I'm going to be really diligent about getting it all within a minute of when I get the pan turned on so that I can be mixing and good to go by the time that it's hot. Because you do want a hot pan when you're cooking with eggs, but you don't want to smoke the oil and you don't want to scorch the pan. Sometimes you can do that with the non-stick pans, especially if they have the coating that at a certain temperature, it peels off and bubbles from the bottom. And that's not a good thing. Another important example of mise en place is things like softening butter or, kind of dehydrating meat a little bit before you add a marinade or a rub to it. So in doing that, you prepare yourself for a better recipe and a greater product. Because with the meat, if you dry it out in the refrigerator a little bit overnight, maybe over 2 days, and it's able to get a little bit of that water evaporated off of it and still maintain its freshness, then when you add a liquid marinade, or brush it on or soak it, it really takes that back in and gets itself infused into the meat. That right there is the hands down best way to do it, I've found, for infusing flavor into meat. None of this injection. Basting is great, it's cool, but if you really want it to soak in, you have to dry the meat a little bit so that when you rehydrate it, all it has to take back up is the oil or the vinegar, whatever else you put in there. And that is a shining example of mise en place, especially with butter as well. To have the best cookies, you have to have the butter able to be properly creamed in so that the sugar doesn't just mix in, but it becomes a paste within itself of the two, like almost the butter cream, so where you're able to use it as a binder of the whole along with the egg, as opposed to, they'll just all melt together. No, you prepare them each step in advance, knowing which part of each step does what, and that way you can make it a greater whole. The other side of that is with batter. Like some people, some chefs, some folks know it where, you add liquids and the solid, the dry goods in certain stages. But the way I find the best preparation in advance is you have the dry goods and the spices, and make sure all those are dry. And then you add in the oil. And after you add in the oil, you add in the egg. After you add in the egg, you add in either the beer or the milk or whatever else your thinning liquid will be for that. But that's mise en place. It's not just getting everything ready in one place. It's knowing the steps to have one create a higher version for whatever it is you're making. And that's a 5-minute thought on the topic at hand for the day. Join us next time when we go a deep dive on another topic in the culinary world.